Hey guys, thank you for subscribing to the AMG Power Equipment channel. On today's video, I'm going to show you how to replace a handle on a Stihl MS 290 chainsaw. For this particular saw, there's going to be two different styles of handles. Make sure you guys are using the correct parts on the correct saw so that way everything's interchangeable. So with that, we're going to jump right into the video and show you how this is done. Sometimes these carbs will stick when they've been in there a while, so just go ahead and take a screwdriver and lightly pry it out and it should pop out just fine. Another thing I'll do is open up the gas cap so that way the pressure gets relieved in the tank before I take the carburetor off. If you don't do this, the fuel line is going to spray fuel all over the place once you remove it from the carburetor. Next, I'm going to remove the wiring harness, which includes removing the ground wire. In order to remove the handle, you're going to have to remove the screws that are back there. Take these plugs out and you'll see the screw right inside there. There are a total of 4 screws on the clutch side of the handle housing. Two more screws on the bottom, and one more screw right below the chain catch. And the last annular buffer at the top there does not have a screw underneath that plug. Once you got the carb out, remove the washer and the sleeve behind the carburetor. Next, take the manifold and push it through the housing. I'm going to continue to disconnect the rest of the wires as well. Go ahead and pull the tank vent line through. Now I'm going to take my smooth end tool, I'm going to press through the impulse line, and I'm also going to press through the grommet that holds the wiring harness. Don't use a screwdriver as you can puncture the impulse line or the wiring harness. Now I'm just going to pry the cover off the annular buffer. Here's a picture of the part number that I used. This one has a flat top, the other part number has a dimple at the top. That's all it takes to get the handle assembly off the unit. So to put the new unit back on, just do the reverse of all the steps that I just showed you. I use needle nose pliers to pull through the wires, the impulse line, and the manifold. Just make sure that you're really careful when you do this because you can bust the wires off and you can puncture the impulse line or the manifold. I also use press fluid, which you just saw me use there. It just helps everything slide into place easier. So to pull the manifold through, just start working on one corner and just keep working around till the whole thing comes through. Don't focus on pulling on one area, otherwise then you can damage it. Make sure when you pull the tank vent through that you're not pinching any of the hose underneath there, otherwise your saw won't work properly. Now I'm installing the lockout in place. Once I get that where it needs to be with that spring underneath there, I'm going to put the handle molding on top of that. And to secure the handle molding on this saw, there's actually a screw that goes underneath and tightens everything down. For me, the easiest way to put the handle on is to start on the bottom. I'll go ahead and put it into place, flip the saw over, and I'll get these 2 screws right there by the bottom of the handle. That'll hold everything into place so that way I can align everything else. Once all the screws are in, put the plugs back into place. Here's where I reconnect the tank vent. I did clean this out really good with carb cleaner and an air hose before I put it back on there. Before you put your carburetor on, you're going to want to make sure your wiring harness is back into place. Also, you're going to want to make sure that you have your washer and then that sleeve inside your manifold too. After I get the manifold in place, I'm going to make sure that the fuel line is secured in its hole as well. Before you push your carburetor in, make sure that the grommet for your adjustment screws is pushed to the side. It is a real tight fit in there, so you're going to have to put that on ahead of time. And then also make sure that your tank vent is facing forward. Now I'm going to reinstall the throttle linkage on the carburetor. Always make sure the throttle works before moving on to the next step. Don't forget to install the baffle before you tighten the nuts down in the carburetor. Finish up with putting the air filter on and you're good to go. This repair takes about 30 minutes for somebody that's familiar with it. If you haven't done this before, it could take up to an hour.